So this is the Combat Station. I'm your host, Ty Matthews, and today we have a special guest on, Aidan James. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Mate, couldn't be better. Anyway, let's get into it, right? So recently, you won a fight for cage wars. You were coming off 2 losses, and you got a round
Yeah.
2 submission. What did you take from them 2 losses that helped you get the win recently?
Nothing really. Just like this losses. They don't do anything. Do you know what I mean? They just fights. Some fights you win. Some fights you lose. And everyone always tries to make a big story like, oh, I learned so much from this loss, and maybe some fighters do, but for me, I learn a lot more in my training camps. Do you know what I mean? When I'm training fights is where I do a lot of my learning and figuring things out. Sometimes the fights go away, sometimes they don't, but doesn't really change too much. Like the last fight was a split decision loss. It was really tight. Maybe I learned to go a little bit harder in the fight, but I thought I was going quite hard anyway. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's just all part of it. I think people look into it too much.
Now, you got a fight coming up in December. Now,
Yeah.
how do you rate your opponent, and what are you going to bring to this matchup that will make you win?
Yeah, I respect my opponent. Tanyo, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Tanyo's well-rounded. He can switch stance. He's got good boxing. Most Italians tend to have good striking. He's also got good grappling. He got good finishes through submissions. So I know he's dangerous all rounded. But my main focus is obviously on what I'm going to do in this fight anyway. Like, I'm not too concerned about what he's going to do. I'm just going to try and implement the things that I've been working on. I believe like I'm better in every department, but that's what we're going to fight to find out, don't we?
Now, what is your prediction for the fight? Do you believe you're going to get a finish, or do you believe a decision?
I don't usually predict fights. Obviously I always want to finish. All my pro wins are finishes, but if it's a decision, it's a decision. It depends how the fight goes. I just like a finish because it puts a stamp on things. When I used to finish, when I had my amateur fights, I got a lot of finishes, and then the last few amateur fights were decisions, and they don't have the same stamp on them. Even if I dominate the fight, it's just always nice to finish. But then, having said that, when I finished some of my pro fights early, like Franz Malambo and what have you, I felt like I hadn't dominated enough. So I don't know, it was just my brain being a bit weird. But yeah, I don't really make too much predictions. I'm just going to go in and just do what I do best.
Now, after this fight, is there anything you want? Do you want to stay with Cage Warriors, or are you looking for a bigger promotion? What's your plans for your career going forward?
Well, I'm signed with Cage Warriors anyway. I got 5 fights with them, so this is my second fight of my contract. So I won't have a choice really. But I'm just focused on December 11th first. I'm not too concerned about anything else right now. Do you know what I mean? I had someone ask me the day, like, what's your plans 2022? You got, do you know what I mean, all this stuff. I was like, fucking, let me just focus on December 11th first. I mean, let's just do one fight at a time before making plans and, oh, I'm going to do this and that. At the end of the day, only thing that's going to matter is what happens in this next fight, isn't it? So that's where my focus will be staying.
Do you feel you do have the potential to go to a high level in Cage Warriors? So,
yeah, I believe I have the potential to be a champion. Like, my goal is to be the Cage Warriors world champion, but and I obviously believe in myself to achieve that goal. But obviously, time tells through fights. So the main focus is winning each fight, and everything else just doesn't matter.
do you watch a lot of MMA?
Yeah, I watch. Yeah, I watch a lot of MMA, not as much as I used to. I mainly watch it bantamweights, so bantamweights and featherweights. So any people in my division or the division above, I'll keep an eye on them, and some of the flyweights. I like watching. I actually don't mind watching UK MMA as well. So I love watching most of the UK fighters, obviously because I couldn't fight in any of them. But yeah, I used to watch MMA a lot more, but it's on so much as well now. There's only so much time you've got to actually commit to watching fights all day.
Did you catch the UFC pay-per-view last week?
Yeah, I did watch that.
How did you score Usman Colby?
Usman, but it was tight. Like I actually bet my one of the guys in my gym a $5 that Colby would win, just because I just love the underdog stories, and also I don't know, I sort of sneaky feeling, but obviously I wasn't correct. But yeah, I had it for Usman as well.
Also on that card was Rose versus Zhang, and a lot of people think Zhang won. Do you think Rose deserved the victory?
Um, I think I need to watch it again. It's one of the fights I think I have to watch maybe a couple of times because like it's hard to not be. Like I'm a Rose fan, so I think maybe I was a little bit more biased going into it. I didn't watch it objectively, but uh, it seemed like Rose won in my eyes. But again, like I said, I was being a bit biased.
Also, Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez the week after. What a fight. Just want to ask, what do you
Yeah.
think of Max Holloway's chances of becoming featherweight champ again?
I think they're very high. The thing is, it's like Volkanovski, he is top tier. So um, he seems like not have Max's number because I thought Max won the last fight. But every fight they're having, Volkanovski's looking better. I mean, he's going to be a bit more accustomed to Max, a bit more improved. Same for Max as well. And it can be a little bit of like a time cost for them too, depending on the judges, depends how it goes. But I'd love to see Max win because always been a big Max Holloway fan since since he got to the UFC. And me and Max are very similar, like stylistically, same height, similar reach, similar style as well of like the way he likes to strike. So I'm bound to be a little bit more biased towards Max. But Volkanovski's grown on me over the last few years. He's a funny guy. I love his attitude of fighting as well. So I don't even want to see either of them lose, especially to each other. But my also watching it, I'd love to see Max become champ one more time.
Who is your favorite fighter in MMA?
Joe St. Pierre was always my favorite fighter. Like I loved young Joe. Like young me was just loved Joe St. Pierre. Just 'cause he was a bit nerdy and he was quiet and he wasn't very brash and I saw a lot of like what I would like to be as a fighter when I looked at George in the way he carried himself and the way he would act and how professional he was. He was the first fighter really to turn up to press conferences wearing nice suits when everyone else would wear like the old fucking affliction and tap out stuff looking really rough. He'd wear like smart clothes and he spoke well. Like even though I just saw the last couple of times now, he wouldn't really swear on interviews and stuff. He was like an all round professional. Um, but then like obviously you have current fighters. I don't know, it's weird now. Like when I watch fighters, like I'm a fan of Max, so like a lot of big like some of the older fighters I'm more fan of. But now like I see guys more like I could fight on one day. Like when I see fighters now, like I love watching fighters. Like I love watching Corey Sandhagen. He's my favorite fighter to watch. Again, we both the exact same height, exact same reach, and same weight class. So like watching him is good for me to learn. But like although I'm like a fan of him and like the way he is, like I want to fight him. So now I see more guys like opponents and like when I was a kid I put like fanboy over fighters. The first time I went to the UFC was as like a cornerman type job for Brett Jones and he was training with us and I was like starstruck all week. Like I seen all these fighters. I was like, oh, like I wanted photos of everyone. I didn't take any photos, so I wanted to be professional, but I wanted them. But then lately I've seen like countless UFC fighters over the last few years and it don't really like hit me the same. So yeah, currently I'm not like it's not like oh he's my favorite fighter, but I just have some fights I love watching just because the way they fight as well.
Do you have a dream fight? If you could fight anyone in the cage, any time period of MMA, who would you want to fight?
Max Holloway. I'd love to fight Max Holloway just because I think sometimes I think Khabib. So I think oh I wonder what a mauling off Khabib feels like. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't like he's obviously a lightweight, he's massive and stuff, but like I wonder what it feels like that unbelievable pressure would be on you, like drowning step by step. Couldn't imagine it's very fun. But fun fight wise, like I always think as well, like Sean O'Malley, like he'd be a fun fight. Obviously he's dangerous at all times, you have to be switched on. He's electrically fast, he has fun combos, you know what I mean? And again, another guy, we both the exact same height, same reach. So that's a fight I'd love to have him, Sandhagen, Max Holloway, tall, lanky strikers.
Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira is coming up in the final pay-per-view of this year. Who'd you have in that fight? Because a lot of people are 50-50 or leaning Poirier.
Yeah, that's a honestly it's a tough one because a lot of people still view Charles like Charles went 5-6 years back, where he was a little bit up and down, and like sometimes he'd win, sometimes he'd lose. But as of late, the last few years, he's got a real good streak. But also like the way he's fighting as well, like it looks a lot better. Like the strikes he's using and the grappling, and as also the things he's doing to guys in fights are not being done to them guys by other opponents. So he's showing his levels above. And then against his fight with Chandler, he did show like absolute world champion heart. So like in other fights where he tapped or like he got hit and he seemed like almost accept the finish. Where it was TKO or sub, he just didn't have that in the Chandler fight. Like you could see him like come back from the brink, like the absolute brink of defeat. If it had been stopped, some people wouldn't have even argued it, and come back to knock Chandler out. So it's hard to write Charles Olivier off. But then with Poirier, like he's what I call like a fighter's fighter. You'd watch him as a young up and comer, and he's always in the gym, and he's always grafting, and like he's had a few wins and then a loss, and another few wins and a loss, and he's always fighting like top tier competition. And it just seems like him being UFC world champion suits his story. Do you understand? Like the way like it's going through for him, like he's been the interim champ, but like for him to have the full blown undisputed title, that seems part of his legacy. And I can imagine for him as well going into this fight, this is pretty much his last hurrah again, that belt. So I'm gonna go with Poirier because I love a good story.
Gonna end it with one more thing. Conor McGregor recently, a lot of people have been getting a bit, I know, they've been calling him, Chelsea and called him a little rich weirdo. What do you think McGregor can come back from all these losses? Do you think he can make a comeback and maybe go on a run again?
Yeah, of course I do. I'm a McGregor fanboy from day one. I've always loved McGregor. He's one of my favourites as well. Yes, he says some polarizing things, but like when you look at the greats in any sport they do, they tend to be a little bit mad and they tend to cause a lot of like attention on the media for good and bad things. He's a superstar. So do I believe he can come back? Of course I do. Like the things he done at the ages he done them at featherweight, then come double champ, bringing all the attention to the sport, fighting Floyd Mayweather, all the things he's done shows the reality is he's the type of fighter that can put his mind aside and come back. Like even in his last fight against Poirier, he snapped his leg. When that Netflix documentary releases comes out, you're gonna see like that his leg was actually damaged going into the fight, and they knew there was a good chance he could hurt his leg. And a lot of fighters will pull out, a lot of fighters will turn it down. But like it's not like as well McGregor was fighting for the money. It's not like he was fighting Poirier for the money, so he had to like stay in the fight. It's just the type of guy he is. So his mindset and his mindset and his skill set means I believe that if he did come back, he could become a world champion. The only thing I do like that I before you always see him training skills, and he was always training with training partners, and he'd put himself to the tough rounds like wrestling, grappling, new stuff that grinds you day to day that you don't always want to do. And as of late, it looks like he just does a lot of strength and conditioning. Whether that's just because that's what he wants to show us, and he doesn't want to show us him doing skill work, I don't know. But when he's going into that second Poirier fight, like even straight after the first fight, you've seen Dustin Poirier was training skills, and he was always back on the gym, wrestling on the walls, doing all of the shit training that feels horrible. And McGregor just wasn't posting nothing. He was in Dubai on a yacht. So I do think that like there's only so long you can avoid all them extra skill sessions where like the young hungry up and comers will come and they'll eat you alive, and that is worrying.
So we're gonna wrap up probably now, but anything you want to say to your fans before we finish?
Just come watch the go and Fight Pass December 11th. Cage Wars 132, or get tickets if you want to come. It's in the York Hall, and that's it really.
Anyway, mate, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you, buddy.
And this has been the Combat Station, and we are out.